create opportunities, eliminate failure points, and then close the deal. Sounds simple enough, right? Look, y'all, it's awesome and something special when it goes that way. But this here is elk hunting, and you're going to work your butt off for each and every opportunity. And then those failure points, well, those dadgum puppies will show up at the worst time. Next thing you know, it's elk 1 and the hunter 0. That's why this series is so huge. It's your chance to learn where we've gone wrong over the years, what we feel are some of the biggest failure points for you to avoid, and how you can turn that opportunity into a win. That discussion, some ElkBros shout outs, and scenario questions from our ElkBros mailbox. You are not going to want to miss this. So, my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gillia. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy the show. And as always, for our Blue Collar Hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas from Spring, Texas, the host of your show, and from the DFW and Katy, Texas area. That's right. We got the Venezuelan Mafia in the house. Luis Gonzalez and Manano Grateron, they're in the house with us tonight. And from Burnett, Texas, the Flatlander himself, Mr. Cole Wilkes, is in the house. And you got it right. The boys are back in town from Boston, Massachusetts. We got the elk hunting coaches in the house here from Cimarron, New Mexico. WWJGD is in the house, and the ninja, Leroy Chavez. We got them all right here, ready to go. Tee it up, Joe.
Well, let me tell you what, man. Chav does more than just kill elk, bro. He tears it up out on the ocean when it comes to that fishing, man.
And I heard Joe was feeding the fish.
Oh my! I have my color back. I got my color back because, bro, I was green, man.
Green with envy.
All right, Joe. So, how you felt at sea level is how we feel up in the mountain.
There you go. Exactly. Turnabout is fair play, Joe. You want to go in circles?
All I want to say is when we have you guys at the mountains, we don't let them mountains keep going up and down.
Oh. Yeah, but you do.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh, and we got to give a shout out, man. We got to give a shout out to Dylan and Ty, who has the Blue Highways charter out there in Westport, Massachusetts, man. These guys, they took our family out and showed us a time, man. I mean, yeah, you know, I think some of you guys talked to Dylan ahead of time, because when I started to get green and he looked at me and he's like, "No, did we go in?" I was like, "No, bro." I mean, I was like taking it for the team, right? I was like, "No, man, we're not going to do that. They're having fun and everything like that." I could have sworn I saw a wink to something like that. Man, they took us further out, man.
Yeah, they taught you about geometry, didn't they? Yeah.
Oh, they heard them bass a long way off, Joe. They had to go. I mean, when you hear them, you got to go to them, Joe.
That's right.
They found them. They found them pretty easy. Yeah.
How cool!
Yeah, karma. Karma.
How cool would it be if we could have like that daggum sonar gig to find elk, man? That's pretty
right. No doubt.
Joe, listen, man, we have our own sonar.
Yeah, what is that?
It's called the Soloist.
There you go, bro.
There you go. That's a good shameless plug.
Yeah, we do, man. We can do it just like that. Yeah. Oh, speaking of,
I believe a couple of our captains have it, don't they, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, they'll be on the Hunt Wars coming up.
looky there. There's Cole with one right there, man.
There you go.
And in fact, Cole will be headed to Utah here in a couple of weeks. Going to go compete with the boys, man. So
next week. Next
week.
Wow. Good luck. Good luck over there.
What days are you going up there, brother?
I'll be there at the Calling Championships on Thursday. I think it's the 23rd. And then we'll be shooting the Total Archery Challenge event that Saturday as well.
That's cool.
Are they gonna broadcast it or
I was gonna
live or
say,
something?
yeah.
I don't know. I think I'll probably go live on my channel. Kyle's going to be there,
cool.
We might just broadcast it live right there at the event.
On your YouTube channel?
Yeah. On the YouTube channel.
Cool.
yeah, that's
Be
awesome.
cool to see at least a short clip, man, next time.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
you know, you actually using
Winning.
it, and yeah.
I don't know about winning, man. I'm
No
up there.
pressure.
This is my first ever, so I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah,
That's
but
going to be
been-
cool.
look,
Ripping bugles and having fun, and it's going to
Hey,
be
man,
good content for
if it-
everybody out there.
If you ever feel down there, just think about Manano would always do it worse. So just lift your chin up, and
Man,
then
it's really cool. You get to, represent yourself and then the Elk Bros crew, man. So it's going to be really cool to have you there.
yeah, we're real proud of you, man. So that, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
the part I'm proud about is the same thing that we tell people about calling is a lot of people are intimidated to get out in the woods like they're going to mess up, man. And the thing is go out, get after it. The more you do it, the better you're going to get. And what, Cole, you're actually doing is you're putting yourself in a pressure situation where, man, it's very similar to being out in the woods, so that, how many times has somebody been out there and they wanted to get out a real quiet cow call and it's like,
Yeah.
mouth.
Can't get your latex broke in.
every time, and then you try to fix it, and it just sounds even worse, and you're like, you just shut up.
Get another one. Reach in the bag.
Immediately you think, oh man, I screwed that up.
Another Elk Bros announcement is our Vacru camo. We had our pre-order, and that's being shipped out this week to those people that had ordered. But I ordered, I think it's 20 total. It might be 20 or 40. I think it's 20. I ordered a limited supply to put in our store for people to have a chance to order that if they want to order some. So keep your eye out, man. By the time you hear this, they might be gone, but we're going to put Vacru camo in the store, and we're going to try to do that more often and keep that in stock in there. So we're excited about that, man. So, hey, guys,
Time to get my order in.
Everybody get your order in because it ain't going to last long.
It's after July. We're ready to rock. It's so good to be together again. Good to see all y'all's faces. Everybody's refreshed. Manano looks like 007 over there. So,
Dapper Dan, man. For sure. Guys, you know what time it is. It's time for the Elk Bros shout-outs. If you're new to our show, it's just shout-outs to a few singles with most listeners topping our charts this week.
Absolutely, man. First, we're going to thank those folks giving us those incredible reviews on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. And we even got some from Podbean, man, this time out there. So
right.
I want to and look, guys, we love seeing those 5-star reviews, and it's just so cool that y'all take the time to let us know how much you appreciate what we're doing, and you don't know what that does for us. It really means a lot. It helps us out as well, because when we get those reviews, that helps us out in the ratings, and it helps us to have our show so we can bring this to you guys. So thank you. First one goes to J-Boy, and dude, he said this was the most educational elk hunting podcast he's ever listened to, man. So thank you, bud, for that. Ed Morris, you guys remember that name, Ed Morris?
Yeah.
He says he listens to every podcast. He's on Basecamp, and he says Basecamp is the best teaching program on the market, man. And when I just makes the chest swell when I hear people say things
For sure.
like that.
Well, if they only knew how much time and effort you guys, you and Chav put into that, for sure.
It's a lot of time, man. Zach Fisher said, epic content, man. And Zach, we love you, bro. Joel Adair, Joel, remember last time Joel said that something about he wanted to have, Luis with him, and because he said that he's always hearing that Luis is last on the totem pole, so he's going to have to be hunting with Luis then. But he had words from Manano. He said, Manano, keep practicing your voice elk calls. He said, man. So, that's what Joel does. He does stuff with his voice. He calls.
He is freaking incredible. He sounds like he has a freaking diaphragm.
It's a pro.
Doing that stuff, man. Unbelievable.
It is
Real pro.
If I did that, I'd be
way cool, Joe.
If I did,
Yeah.
crazy. And then Big Sky, both Joel and Big Sky were out of Podbean. And Big Sky, we don't know what your real name is, man, but thanks for the kind words. Oh, also want to remind grinders, now that we're back, if you want to be a part of the show, just send a 15 to 20 second shout out video of who you are, where you are, a little 5, 10, 15 second bit on why you love where you're at. Send it to us, man. Just a little message. You can send it to me on the ElkBros Instagram. You can email it to joe@elkbros.com and just send that clip. And if you email me and you don't find a way, I'll make sure you get it to us. But since we don't have a clip, I do have something special, and I got a bunch of these that we're going to start including either here or we're going to put them on our website. And guys, this is really, really cool, man. We have this week's tip. This is an ElkBros tips from Bob the Billy Goat. It's Bob the Billy Goat Collins giving you this week's tip. Check this out.
Hey guys, this is the old Billy Goat with the tip of the week. I want to talk to you today about little things I carry in my pack that you may not have thought about it. Benadryl. I carry a few in a little pill bottle like this in my pack at all times. You get busy breaking down an elk, those yellow jackets just seem to come out of nowhere. Before you know it, there's a ton of them on your carcass, unless there's snow, you know how it is, but it's the warmer weather, hunting. I got stung in the lip one time, my face swelled up. A few Benadryl, a little pill bottle like this, guys, could save your life. Eye drops.
Kissing your elk, Billy Goat.
From your eye and burned. Very important, keep some eye drops. This one I don't keep in my pack. But what I do is keep it at base camp. Out there with the weather, with the air so dry, this nasal spray helps tremendously to keep your sinuses lubricated up. Man, it makes a difference of getting a headache or not, too. Big.
10 gallons for Manano.
But not least, if you're going to use chapstick, take the beeswax lip balm. It's got beeswax in it, which will double as a lubricant. I use it on the slide on my cable guard. I've used it on my fishing pole. The Pharaoh's putting it together so they don't stick. A little bit of lubricant sometimes can go a lot of ways, guys. All right, guys, hopefully that helps you out a little bit. Makes your stay out there a little bit better. This is the old Billy Goat. Stay safe.
He's a pro.
Man.
Sweet. For sure. We're going to have to talk that Billy Goat about kissing his dadgum elk, man, and getting stung in the lip by them old yeller jackets, man.
Hey, that's
I love
good
mine. I'm going
advice.
to tell you right now, boy. I love my elk, but I don't know if I've been down there kissing on him or not.
And a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of these people have never been out hunting elk, don't understand what happens when you're working an elk. And these yellow jackets could care less how big you are, who you are, and they start cutting on that meat, and they're all over the place, man.
You know, Joe, last year we didn't have to worry about that because we had all that snow. But the year before and every year before that, we've brought a tent that's got a screen around it so we can keep them off of us while we're butchering, because they're brutal. I'm very allergic to them, so I always have Benadryl with me for sure.
Absolutely, man. Now, guys, for our top listening city.
This top listening city is well known for its national historic landmark, the Hitchcock House. Built in 1856, the station was used by the Underground Railroad movement during the Civil War. The city is located along the East Nishnabotna River and Lewis Cold Spring Lake. Popular tourist attractions include the Danish Windmill and the Viking Lake State Park, and this is in Lewis, Iowa.
Lewis, Iowa.
Lewis, Iowa. The Midwest shows up in the house.
Yep.
Guys, up next, this second largest city in Sheboygan County in Wisconsin. is known as the cheese capital of the world and ground zero for the Wisconsin cheese industry. It is estimated that 14% of the nation's cheese is processed and sold right there. It is home to some of the biggest brands, including Sargento, Sartori, Masters Gallery, and the Great Lakes Cheese, in none other than Plymouth, Wisconsin.
Plymouth, Wisconsin.
Man, I'm glad you got to pronounce that one, Beto, because I would have been like Plymouth, like something like that, man. I would have no clue.
Well, luckily my wife's from Michigan, and Sheboygan, there's a town called Sheboygan in Michigan, so I knew what that was.
14% of the nation's cheese, man, and I just imagine, I mean, that's but there's got to be
a ton of cheese.
A lot of cheese, man.
I hope those folks aren't stopped up. That's all I'm saying, man.
Eat some avocado, you'll be all right.
Eat some avocado.
Hey, imagine if you get there and you have a dairy allergy, man. That would suck.
Up next, where else can you host a Winter Olympics and the World Water Skiing Championship? With 355 days of sunshine, this city in the western province of Alberta is located at the western edge of the Great Plains and foothills of the Canadian Rockies, and is also known for one of the world's largest and longest rodeos, the Calgary Stampede. A 10-day rodeo thrills visitors from all over the world. Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Calgary.
Betcha.
Yeah. And
you guys have never been there and been to if y'all like rodeo, there's nothing like the Calgary Stampede. I mean,
you've been there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I
used
ride
to call on Talisman.
horses.
Manano says, I ride wild horses. Yeah, he sure does. And that Calgary Stampede.
I've seen Manano also not ride wild.
I can give you a clip of him riding the wild horse. Okay.
Horses, okay.
He's so
Manano,
I can send you a clip of him actually just eating dirt.
He lashes. I mean, he's so jealous.
Eating dirt is what he does.
No, but all seriousness, man, the Calgary Stampede's like none other. No, I called on a company called Talisman in Canada, and they're there in Calgary. Their home office was, so I got to spend quite a bit of time there. And
so actually,
I think Luis's boss lives in Calgary.
Yeah. A lot of the ex-Talisman guys are now with the company I work for, and so a lot of them are still based there in Calgary. So a lot of my colleagues are there, and I talk to them on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question.
Town.
I have seen a race that comes off of a hill straight down, a massive amount of horses with riders on it trying to sprint down the bottom of this steep hill. Is that the Calgary Stampede?
That's the Stampede. Yep.
Oh my God, those guys are nuts.
Absolutely, man. Cowboys. The real cowboys.
Yeah, that's a cow town right there.
R.C. Knox kind of cowboy.
Not Manano's kind of cowboy. None of that. So this city started as a flourishing farm and ranch area, but is now known for its gas and oil industry. Located at the confluence of three rivers, it is the retail and industrial center of the entire Four Corners region of New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, and Arizona. This top listening city is also home to the 57-year-old Connie Mack World Series, and the nearby San Juan River has some of the best trophy trout fishing in the world. None other than Farmington, New Mexico.
Farmington shout out, man.
That's
proud
cool.
to have that shout out right there.
That's straight oil field town right there, buddy.
Yeah, gas.
Go check out that fishing.
Well,
Yeah.
a lot of gas right there, but
bit.
let me tell you
Permian.
what, a lot of people don't realize, and God, I don't know if I should say this on there, man, but that area, you would look at it and you'd think there's no way there's any elk in this country.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some good elk hunting around Farmington and different areas up there. I mean, it's right, on that southern Colorado border too,
Sure.
up in there. And there's some tremendous stuff. But I did not know that it was the home of the Connie Mack World Series, and that's really cool. Awesome.
This borough and the city in Pennsylvania is rich in history and the site of the Battle of Gettysburg, the turning point of the Civil War. It is now home to a national military park and the site of Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. The park has 1,400 monuments and statues across the battlefield, making it the largest outdoor collections of sculptures in the world.
Wow.
It was also the summer White House of President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania in the
That's
house,
crazy.
man. Look, you can go there, see the largest outdoor collection of sculptures, and then go bear hunting, right?
Yeah.
I'm down.
Sure. I wonder if there's any elk around there, because Pennsylvania's got some elk in it.
Oh yeah, I guarantee you there is.
Yeah.
How cool would it be to, hunt elk in an area like Gettysburg? I mean,
Yeah.
that would just be
Yeah,
fantastic.
or the hills of Kentucky or something. Man, I heard they starting to get some
Absolutely.
big bulls out that way.
Absolutely, man. Anybody been to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I plan on whitetail hunting up there in the next couple years.
Awesome, man. That'd be way cool. Send us some pictures.
I've been in Pittsburgh and Cannonsburg and a bunch of area in Pennsylvania, but I've not been to Gettysburg.
Correct. Me neither.
So the topic of tonight's show, guys, we promised everybody that we would finish up our top 10 failure points and how to eliminate them. And what we've done is we have talked in the process of a number of failure points. But I want to tell you which ones I have in our top 10 list that I've kind of looked over and see what you guys think about this list so far. And we're going to finish up tonight with some things that we think could possibly break into this, and then we will finalize our top 10. And we have some really cool questions at the end in our mailbox I'm anxious to get to as well. But failure points, our top 10 list, and we'll see if we can break into this with what we have tonight. Poor shot selection, limited calling ability or not calling, depending on a rangefinder, poor decisions after the shot. And because a lot of people, man, they do a lot of good things, and then it's just the follow-up. Not understanding arrow trajectory can be a huge mistake out there. Letting your nerves and emotions get in the way of focus and execution. Thinking no responses equals no elk. Not hunting fearlessly or sticking to known trails and areas during daylight hours only. Not having backups to your backup bow, release, rangefinder. And this would be one of the 10, and I haven't ranked these, but, just in that top 10, not inspecting your equipment and depending on equipment that may be worn and ready to break down. So, on that note, before we jump into our next ones here, a word called Loctite, if you're not using it on some of your screws for some of the things on your bow, I would recommend it, because you get in that ATV like Luis was talking about, that UTV, get some vibration in your truck, things have a tendency to come loose. So that's something to talk about. So how do you guys feel about that list of top 10 so far?
Yeah.
Solid.
Solid.
Yeah.
Super solid.
Absolutely. And now we're going to find
amongst
out.
all the other things we've discussed.
Amongst all the
Yeah.
in which we're like hunting elk where and when you have the smallest window for an encounter, shooting at extreme angles and not bending at the waist, not practicing your shooting during a hunt, staying locked up with an elk in a losing situation, eating foods or dried meals for the first time on a hunt and having digestive issues.
Yeah.
Could be a huge failure.
You got plenty of it.
Yeah, you
Not
eat too
having-
much paella. Whew.
And not having a structurally solid fixed broadhead. Now, there might be argument on some of those, whether they go into that top 10 or not, but, that's kind of where we've been right now. So what I'd like to do is we want to jump in right away so we can see what else could help these people out. Because, look, the whole reason that we're doing this is we want all of y'all out there to understand that we don't know everything, but we've made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
And we've learned from a lot of mistakes. And
More than once.
more than one, absolutely. And we're still learning. You know, I mean, it's a journey, man, and we're still learning. But we call those learning moments, man, and that's the only way you're going to get better, to put yourself out there, try things, and have those learning moments. And, you know, that all comes down to attitude, comes down to mentality, comes down to aggressiveness, comes down to putting yourself in good position. So let's talk about some more of those tonight. And which of you guys want to go first with one that you have that you'd like to add to this?
For me, and you and I have had this happen to ourselves. Just because of the style of hunter that we are, we're aggressive, and we, you know, we like to cover a lot of ground and move hard, move fast, especially when it ain't going on. But when you feel like you're in the middle of them and you got one talking or something like that, and they're talking back to you, and they're not like hot yet, but they're talking, and then they shut up. Okay. You're thinking the whole time, well, maybe they've gone, maybe they left, right? You really need to exercise some patience and give that bull 30 to 45 minutes if he started talking to you. Because chances are, this is a big failure point. I've had this happen on several occasions where we step out thinking that it's all over with, and he's looking at us like Dumbo.
Yeah, and I think we did talk about that on our last podcast, right? We actually gave a couple examples of that too, where, you know, we thought it was done with, and then, you know, one example was my bull. When I was telling Manano we should tell Joe to wrap up and go because we've been here for 45 minutes and nothing's happened, and Joe is probably going to, you know, turn purple up there from calling so much. And just when we said that, that's when they started responding and coming in. So, and I think that's when, Joe, you brought something up about at least 45 minutes to solidify a good.
Yeah, you want to be in that, if you're doing a scenario, you know, like that. And I think Gilbert, is basically what he's saying is a failure point is sometimes patience and giving your call.
Set up a chance.
You're set up a chance. Yeah.
Giving your setup a chance.
Especially if you got some type of communication going on, Joe. Mm-hmm. You know, if he's communicating, and there are several times when I could have swore that it sounded closer. You know, a lot of times you got wind swirling and stuff like that. So if they turn a certain way, they're going to sound closer to you. But it's that when they bugle back at you, or you get a response, and then you got nothing for like 5 minutes. You know how much ground an elk can cover in 5 minutes? Whew, buddy. I mean, they can go a long way. So that's why I'm saying, even if they're a good ways off, doesn't mean they're not coming. You know,
they can very quickly be close.
Just think about how far they can go in 2 minutes.
And sometimes they can. It can take them friggin' 20 minutes to go 10 yards. Sometimes they're taking their time and eating and working a tree, and you know.
When you got a bull coming looking, and he's interested. Yeah, man, he's coming. Now, we got a firsthand see of that 2 years ago when I killed that bull, and he was way a long ways off and went into a wallow, and we got to see how far he'd come and how long it'd take him, you know. But I guarantee you that was every bit of 30 minutes, you know, before we put eyes on him. And then it was like, oh, my God, I can't believe he's going to do this. And then it was another 30 minutes before we got an arrow into him, you know. Right. So the thing is you guys got to believe in your setup, especially if you got something talking, and be patient. And then, you know, just especially if you got a bull that you thought that was kind of interested, you know. Now, if he sounds further away and he's going and he's sounding off them cows and he's got a roundup bugle going, well, I mean, there's a whole different scenario there that you can tell, oh, my gosh. But you got to remember something. There were probably some satellites with him that didn't say a word.
Oh, yeah.
But they could be coming the whole time. And if you do not honor that setup, your chances are you're going to pop out. It happened to me, Joe, Brendan, and Chav. We put on our awesome scenario, and then nobody is looking behind us. Now, why would a bull come in downwind from you, straight up your butt, and you're going, well, there's no way we'd seen. He'd smell us, right? Something happened, and that bull was 45 yards behind us. And when we turned around, he's looking at us like a calf looking at a new gate, and none of us looking for him. So that's another thing. Make sure somebody's got your six if you're not looking back there by yourself, because they will come in downwind.
You bring up a few points there, Gilbert. Yeah. One was I want to remember the word belief. I want to remember the words satellites. Okay. And I want to talk about the wind up your butt, because, remember all three of those, not out your butt, up your butt. Right. So, right. But the reason that I want to talk about that is a lot of people don't realize that in 40 or 50 yards, because the wind's doing something right where you're at, it could be doing something different, just a little ways away from you.
Yeah. Catch a draft and turn it to the left or bend it to the right.
Absolutely, man. So, you've got to pay attention, and I'm guilty of it. I mean, when we had that big 7 by this last year coming in, and I'm putting on that show, and that sucker came in right behind me, it's the last place on my 6 that I let it come.
Exactly. I mean, we got the wind going that way, so
right on top.
It was crazy. Right on top of us.
And the other thing was, like, when you said satellites, right? Because here's the thing. Guys, you cannot throw the season in one barrel. In other words, elk are going to act differently on September 1st than they are on September 8th, than they are on the 15th, than they are on the 22nd, than they are on October 1st. Yeah. And because of what's happening with their mode and with cows coming in and out of heat, where they're at, because once those big bulls get cowed up, because that early season, those big bulls are in the wings, man. They're letting the little guys waste all the energy. And that's when you're going to have timid bulls that have cows. And that's when you're going to have elk that are come in to you silently. Or you're going to have a cow come in estrus out of the blue, and things are going to blow up, and just because they haven't been called by anybody, especially September 1st, right, Chav?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we hunt the dumb ones, man. We don't mind that at all.
And Joe, as we've been doing this series and everything, I harken back to when you and I had that bull with a whole bunch of cows. There were actually multiple bulls and a whole bunch of cows. We got in between him and his cows, and we're like, this is a done deal. He's going to walk in front of us at 25 yards. And
he walks off.
Him and the other bull here, bulls the other direction. But what I really didn't understand at the time was how that other bull bugled. He bugled like there's a hot cow. There were no hot cows in that group of cows.
Right.
When that bull took off, what I should have known then, and I know now, oh my God, the woods are fixing to erupt with hot cows, right? So we were in a scenario that, and we knew, because that area was hot the whole time, man. It stayed hot the whole year.
Had we done that, just what attracted that bull, had we done set up the scenario that we had a hot cow.
Yes.
And see, that's the point I want to make, is that when you have that herd bull that's sounding off like that, understand that there's going to be satellites around, some quiet, some being verbal, that can come into your setup, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Just because you're hearing a herd bull doesn't mean that you're necessarily hunting the herd bull. There's ways to hunt that herd bull, but if you want to get an elk, man, if he is sounding off and he's got another elk sounding off because he has a hot cow, there are going to be multiple bulls around that, and they're going to be looking for some action.
Joe, I think you could do a whole other podcast on hunting a herd bull.
Oh yeah,
just because it's not an easy thing to do at all, especially if you got a big herd with him.
And on top of that,
you and my brothers, I mean, I feel like we're mostly opportunistic elk hunters, right? The first one that gets in the way is going to get it,
Gilbert,
they can all get it,
I think it's a great idea, man. Herd bull scenarios.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's such a broad topic, like Beto was saying. Not only because of the difficulties of it, but also because it's different depending on the time of the year.
Absolutely. Yep. And a herd bull does not necessarily mean the biggest, baddest bull, because early on,
the dominant.
Yeah. Yeah, or it could be one that has the cows at the time, right? He's got the herd at the time, and he is not the dominant bull in the area. He would
right.
he would like to be, and he's practicing to be, but he not necessarily is.
I like Manano.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Because
whenever I shot my bull last season, I was actually calling to the herd bull, and that's where I was going to approach. And I ended up seeing movement, before I was like, well, it's definitely not the herd bull because he's way down here to my right, and I'm seeing movement over to the left. Next thing you know, two satellite bulls come walking right up. One of them was the giant 5-point, and the other one was the bull that I ended up harvesting. And they never made a sound other than I heard a stick pop or something, and I just so happened to catch movement over to my left. So always keep your head on a swivel for sure.
Absolutely, man, because
like I said, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not the only one invested in what's going on. There is a reason that elk are verbal, and there's a reason other elk have ears, man, is so that they know where to go, so that they can breed. And that's exactly right. You got to keep after that. Now, the other thing, Gilbert, the third one that I was talking about, we talked about the wind, we talked about those satellites, but you said a word, belief. And what I think a lot of people go into scenarios not truly invested, not truly believing that the noises they're going to make is going to bring in it until they have it happen. They're like, listen, all you listeners out there that have hunted for a year and you went out there and you called and you stood up to walk away because you didn't think it was really working, and there's a bull staring at you, and then you're like, what? Oh, dang, it works, right?
Yeah. Somebody hit him in the face with a shitty mop.
I think of Rick last year. Told Rick it was early season, move through that transition area, cow calling, but look off to your right, look off to your left. They're going to come in silent. And he said after the fourth bull, I think it was fourth or fifth bull, he was like, you know what? That I was going to I became a believer, and I was like, I'm coming out and I am really going to focus the whole time instead of letting his guard down. He had to believe that when he was calling, elk were coming to him. And in doing that, his first year elk hunting kills a 5x5, man. So that's just tremendous. So you have to believe in what you're doing. You have to be invested. Why are you calling if you don't believe in it, man? That's just like, that's like standing at the free throw line, getting ready to shoot and going, I ain't going to make it, but I don't get it,
Go up a prayer.
Yeah, you got to believe it. So I totally agree. That's a great one right there, Gilbert. Manano, what about you, brother? Well, I want to hear
a bunch of failure points, Joe. Most of the points you mentioned, I got a bunch of it.
Okay.
But I think the greatest one is the poor shot selection. I know we talked about it, but I wanted to bring it up because our learning curve went this way and then flattened after we, I say we because I love Luis and he was involved also.
I get that a lot.
We discovered that after Beto taught us about the shot placement on the hogs, I got many disappointing moments about taking that decision and taking the shot placement. And another big one is the after the shot. I shot a big 10-point in public land, and I thought I hit it right in the pump station, and I went down to 10-15 minutes after the shot, and I found blood everywhere. But I jumped it, and I couldn't find it. And that was a really depressing moment and a horrible experience. And
I think you're just reinforcing why we probably have poor shot selection as one of our top failure points, man. And poor decisions after the shot. Those kind of, there are so many people that, and it's happened to me, that you can see an arrow go in perfectly where you think it's a dead animal. And I've heard people talk about this, and again, I'm not downplaying anything, I just hear them talk about this, that especially with only a 2-blade where they've seen hit ribs and for some reason deflect into a 90. We had a big bull shot when I was guiding, and that arrow went in behind the shoulder and came out the back hip. Now tell me how that happens. I have no idea. But deflections like that can happen, even though you think it's great. That's why had he, they waited that amount of time, they wouldn't have ended up jumping that animal and making it a little bit more difficult. So,
Joe, were y'all able to find the arrow after the shot?
Yes. So it was actually sticking out the back end of the animal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he ran a little ways and it fell out?
Yeah.
Y'all
No, they found him with the arrow in it.
Oh, gotcha. So it never came out.
Never
Y'all
came all
couldn't
the way
see.
out. It reamed.
So,
yeah.
Man, I tell you what, and that's a great, I'm glad I asked that question, because if you can't find your arrow, that's a 4-hour minimum wait.
Yeah.
Gotta be. I mean, you can't find the arrow. You don't know how well he's hit.
Depending on how much blood you see.
Or the kind of blood.
I don't care. I really don't care. If I can't tell, if that's a lung hit animal or, and I guess you're right, Luis. If you can tell, that blood's frothy on the ground, it looks pretty good.
And you can see it on both sides frothy.
Yeah, yeah. Or he falls out inside of you. Sure, time to go look for him. But man, if he didn't fall in sight where you could see him, and you can't find your arrow and the blood's thin, man, you better give that animal a lot of time. Because we don't know how it turned out. Could be a kind of come out down there on the liver, like Joe said, low, and that's a 6-hour minimum wait.
Yeah, I think as a hunters, we must follow procedures, and we keep following the procedures, even if you are pretty confident of you made a great shot. We have to follow procedures, and that's it. We have to wait and
it's
let
hard.
Joe go peek.
And it's hard, man.
And see if they fell down.
Especially, you've been waiting all year, right? To have an opportunity. You take that opportunity, and now you have to wait. Like Beto, you've got a few instances where you had to wait until the next day, right? We all had those instances, and I had it too. And
look how long you had to wait this year.
Yeah, and then it's just so hard. It's so hard to do, but you always kind of have to tell yourself that it's going to be worse if you don't do that, because you can potentially jump the animal, and then now you're never going to find it, and then you're going to be regretting it. And I hate regret.
Yeah. Like I said, man, if you just get one lung, man, they are so athletic, and they can cover so much ground in 5 to 10 minutes. They run a mile in 5 minutes. Easy.
My very first year.
Yeah.
Joe, how many miles?
No, it
was a freak of nature.
To this day, I'm like, I just don't. Everything that I saw there, said that we were getting ready to walk up on a dead animal. Everything I saw, and I have never seen that amount of blood without seeing an animal within 100 yards. Hoof up. So, yeah.
Did y'all ever find that arrow?
Yeah.
Both pieces.
Yeah. Oh, pieces.
Yeah.
Both pieces.
Yeah.
So the arrow punched through both sides, and then he broke it. He broke, with the shoulder blades, and we found both pieces of the arrow.
Yeah, it made absolutely no sense. So
I wonder if that could have happened too, Luis. You hit him behind the crease and it bent that arrow forward and it come out the front of his chest. He only got one lung.
Well,
man,
that's what we've always said is it was one lung. So but
that's why, guys, y'all got to make sure that on your spine, on your arrows. If you guys want to learn about arrows and the proper way to tune them and get you set up for your setup, y'all need to get after the VM hunters, man, because these boys they solid with arrow setups, man.
That's what I was going to say.
We're learning, but it's been a cool learning process.
See, I think Luis is changing his philosophy on shot placement to, you know, just hit them with a pile driver, man. They'll go down.
Yeah, and some of
Put a
that's,
nuke on the front of that thing like Rambo, man.
some
Just like
of that's cool, but man, those elk are just made for absorbing punishment.
they're tough animals,
They are
man.
super tough.
Absolutely.
But the more of the reason why you should be, you should have proper bullets.
Dang right. Don't show up with hollow points when you need a dadgum.
Now, if you're dead eye, like Joe and Beto, then you just you're so good at shot placement where you can see the ribs and shoot in between and kill them right there. Then okay, that's a different deal. But if you're rookie like me, man, you wanna just look at the vitals and then just let the arrow do the rest.
I don't know. I've always used a chisel tip, and I don't know if that chisel tip keeps that arrow going in the right direction instead of, deflecting off with multiple blades. I use three blade, and I have never had an arrow, knock on wood, man. I've never had an arrow deflect to an angle with that chisel tip.
And by chisel tip, you mean punch cut?
Punch cut, yeah.
A punch cut, but not a conical. It was it has that, I believe that a chisel tip, I call it a cut on contact because of the way it is chiseled in, that point is, it's punching through immediately. It's not a conical, a smooth conical. So.
Right. Look, Joe, as my son was growing up, he was shooting 38 to 40 pounds, in his little bow. And he was shooting a Magnus two-blade buzz cut and didn't have the bleeder blades on it. But he was shooting it because it's a great cut-on contact broadhead, and it is sharp as, all get out. But the first deer he ever killed, he shot him. If I showed you the video, you're like, oh, that deer's dead as a hammer. He shot him in the crease, and it went right through him, zipped right through him. Animal ran off. First deer he ever shot with a bow at 22 yards. Okay, just blew through him at 38 pounds, just right through him. And I'm like, man, that came out of there quick. I was expecting him, to carry the arrow a little bit. He ran off. We got down and walked down there to the arrow, and I got really in, me, I'm going to wait an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. We get down there and we're waiting an hour and a half. I get down there, it's really dark red blood. I'm like, man, I played the video back. I'm like,
liver blood?
Man, that's gotta be lung shot, but it ain't. He hit a rib and it turned that arrow and it come out in his punch on the other side. So it missed. It got the first back half of the first lung, and then it went to the left and shot out his punch.
Did it smell? The arrow smelled pretty bad?
Yeah. Oh, man. Like, we knew. So we just went back to the house, and then we went and got Jorge. And I told him, I said, let's get the dog. And so we got the dog, and, man, this was 5 hours. We put the dog on him, and the deer was still alive. He couldn't hardly get up at all, but the deer's still alive, raised his head up, and, he tried to fight the dog a little bit, but he couldn't. But, look, we got the full liver, and then he was probably a good quarter of a mile, maybe not a quarter of a mile, maybe 250 yards from where Logan had shot him. And that's his first deer. That's the last thing I want to do is lose his first deer, with a bow. He killed a boatload of them with a rifle, but he'd never shot one with a bow. And so we got him, and that's the first thing I wanted to look at when we got back was I saw where the exit wound is. I'm like, I played the video back. There's no way. That's exactly what happened. That two-blade broadhead must have hit a rib or something, and it turned that arrow to the left. And, of course, he's not shooting a real spiny shaft, so it probably bent that arrow and shot it out the other way, and we just missed all the good stuff. And as soon as I moved him to a Heartcraft or a cut-on contact 3-blade broadhead, right, he started blowing straight through stuff and never having that stuff where it went left to right.
I've never, and I've shot a lot of elk, and I've been around a lot of people who shot elk, and I've never had that happen. But there's one thing I want to bring out that I think could be kind of just a nugget for some of the people listening, is that if you shoot an elk, deer, or anything, and that animal drops hard like that, get another arrow and be ready, because most likely that animal is spine hit. And it could even be spine numbed. I've seen that happen as well. So that means that animal can get back up. So you got to be ready to second it. Another thing is, if you walk up on an animal and you see eyes closed, if you see chest, looking for that chest, if you see ears up, if you see that head and those horns are in an up position, you have a live animal. You've got to be ready to dispatch that animal, put a second one in.
Man.
You know, because it can be a dangerous situation.
Very.
You go up there and you think that animal's down, and you go up too close and it gets up to defend itself. You're talking about a very, very strong.
There was a report last season of somebody that died.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So
doing exactly
remember
what
those
you
signs.
said.
People always think that you see movies and they show somebody's eyes closed, they're dead. That is not the case.
No.
When an animal is dead, the eyes are open. Okay, they're open, and you can, and then you check for those other signs. You look for that chest. Are those ears up? Are those ears, are they moving? Are those horns up? Check for those different signs like that. Okay.
Joe, I shot a whitetail a couple years ago, a really nice 10-point, and I blew through both shoulders. And when I blew through both shoulders, when that arrow hit him and went through him, it's like you shot him with a 30-06 at about 50 yards. It dropped him in his tracks, just, straight down. I'm like, oh my, what a gift from the gods, He just hits the ground. Yeah, he was alive 45 minutes. That ain't cool.
No.
I got to go down there and deal with this giant buck who's still alive for 45 minutes, picking his head up because it paralyzed him. It hit him so hard, it severed something in his spine from the shoulders, and he couldn't move his back legs. He could get his head up off the ground and kick his front feet, but he couldn't get his back legs up. And it never touched his spine, but it broke his back when it hit him.
Chav was standing right on my shoulder when I shot a bear that got spined.
Yeah.
And that bear turned, lost his back legs, turned and came at me just using the front legs.
Not good.
Yeah.
He still got the business end going.
Oh, business end was coming. And
I would still be running, man.
The lawnmower was coming.
I think I had 3 arrows in him before he died, just about at my feet.
Wow.
Man,
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's scary. But again, man, look.
Chad was like taking off. Chad was like, what are you doing?
You got to remember, these aren't guns. They don't.
Chav shot Joe. He's like,
I shoot Joe, run the bear. I just got to outrun Joe.
That's the only reason I stood
Cut the hamstring.
because Chav had tripped me up to make sure that he could get away.
Well, you're lucky Chav was even there to begin with. As soon as Chav sees bear, it's out. I'm out. Let's go. I'm out.
He has my back, right? Hey, so while we're talking about you, Chav, what's another failure point for you, man?
Well, I think we might have talked about it already, but selecting your setup site, make sure you're in an area where you can kneel and you have the shooting lanes, and make sure there's not a branch that's gonna hinder your drawback. And a good backdrop is always nice, because usually when they come in, they're looking past you, they're looking above you, beyond you. And I think you mentioned it earlier, make sure you draw when you get that opportunity, because if you don't draw, you don't shoot. But I think one thing that a lot of people still overlook, even though it's an obvious thing, is be aware of the wind and thermals, especially in the mountains, because it'll vary, from ridge to ridge. So, got to be aware of that too.
There's people that don't understand the difference between wind and thermals. Grinders tuning in, thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Podcast. Our goal is to share our knowledge and help you flatten that learning curve so that you too can have some of the very same incredible experiences that have given all of us here at ElkBros a lifetime of memories. If you like what you hear or see, you can get all of this information plus so much more from our base camp elk hunting training camp. the first in a series of online courses from our Blue Collar Elk Academy. Our base camp training camp allows me to use my coaching style and share almost 40 years of elk hunting experiences successfully hunting elk on public lands, as well as over 20 years guiding hunters of all ages and experience levels. This course will be like nothing you have ever experienced in concept and structure, using success-based coaching techniques that will elevate your confidence and skill sets. Our camp will prepare you specifically from that final moment most in your control, those final minutes or seconds the elk is in front of you, backwards through each step and level, allowing you to see, visualize, understand, and relate every coaching point to what lies ahead, the next step, the next thought process, the next success. Because y'all, you've already been there. You know what it looks like. By tapping my 30 years of teaching and coaching experience, our camps are developed considering multiple learning modes with text, visuals, audio, as well as video. And Base Camp will benefit those new to elk hunting all the way to the 10 to 15 year vet. So if you are looking for that one thing to help you fill that tag this year, invest in the most important piece of equipment there is, you and your elk hunting knowledge. You can find the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Academy and the Base Camp Training Camp at ElkBros.com. That's ElkBros.com. Keep dreaming of the screaming, believing in achieving, and most of all, keep grinding.
Right.
And we talk to them about them a lot. So if you can always go back to our podcast on scent and check that out when we talk about thermals then. I think we have a write-up on our website on thermals there, so that's huge. But, you know, when Chav, when you were talking about setups, you covered a lot of stuff right there in just in a little bit.
Yeah.
And
They're still ranging, you know, if you have a chance, range some landmarks around you, you know, trees, trunks, rocks. If you have time, because a lot of times you don't.
Yeah,
have
if
time.
you got a partner with you, make sure y'all know what your job is. You know,
One of the things
doing it?
I learned, and I think we've talked about this in the past too, is when you're getting set up like that, don't be afraid of making noise. You know, if you have to break some branch, well, I agree. If the elk are not within sight and they're still kind of coming in, and you need to break a branch to kind of make yourself comfortable, or you break a few branches on the floor where you're trying to move stuff away that won't break when you get on your knees and draw. Just don't be afraid. Just try to get set up as quickly as possible. Some of that sound gets kind of disguised with nature and the movement of potentially another elk.
the
That's
thicker
better.
the better. The thicker the better. So
And the other thing is avoid the spotlight with the sun. So just try to make sure. Try to make sure that your shadows cover you a little bit, so you're not out there just shining like a light bulb with the sun at your face.
So what's the best situation to be in with sun and wind?
Sun on your back,
at your
wind
back.
on your face.
Wind in your face.
Yep. Sun at your back, wind in your face. And
And a lot of times you won't be able to get that.
No, you're not. But
the
it's
scenario is going to be different. But
It's optimal, man.
Right.
You know,
You got to find you a place to get in the shade and get in front of cover, not behind cover.
but it's so much harder. It's just like any of us, man. If we don't have a hat on with a visor,
Yeah.
you know, to block that sun, and it's in your eyes, it's hard to see what's happening out in front of you. And the elk got to go through the same thing. You know, that's why I killed that bull with the decoy, because we had the sun at our back. We didn't have the wind in our face. We had a crosswind, but, you know, we had that sun at our back enough so that it kind of blinds them boogers out there. But, you know, the reason I wanted to say with Luis, it depends is, you know, the tighter the situation by the thicker the vegetation, the less you have to worry. The more open it is, then, you know, then they can come into an area where they've heard a sound 60 yards away and they're going to stop and scan, right? So that that's when, if you're going to make that sound, you might want to move up real quick, as silent as possible, so that they still think they're back there. Or you make
call behind.
Yeah, you start calling behind you. Yeah, so there's things you can do to mitigate that, but especially if you're partnered. If you're single and you're partnered is two different things.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. How you've done your scenario, if there's cows, if there's multiple elk that you're doing in your scenario, all of that stuff kind of feeds into the picture that you're painting there. But Chav, when you were talking about the setups, dude, I truly believe, and the reason I said you did a lot of things, when you talked about setup, you talked about like when you're setting, as far as always have everything behind you, nothing in front of you, unless it's low ground cover. Never having branches around so that you're not able to draw. In fact, whenever you get in position, you automatically get there and you start turning so that you know that you're able to draw in the clear there. And like Luis was saying, if we're in a situation where it's thick and we've got a tight setup and we have branches, man, break them puppies, make that noise. We can care less about that, right? So Chav's kind of talking about his placement on the setup, and I want to take that a step further, because I think that how and where you set up is the biggest mistake most hunters make. Because like Luis said, in that situation where you have a long way, and let's say that you have terrain, you've got to find a place that's tight, either through vegetation or terrain. In other words, if I have an animal come into the area, I had better be doggone good at what I do to keep that critter from hanging up 60, 80 yards out there. 60 might not be, that's still Gilbert's kill range, right? Unless that booger is just standing there staring at you. Then when he's turning, that gets a little bit more difficult, because you have a wary when you want him in there tighter. But most people don't set up so that that they are within shooting range of what I call an elk stop and scan location. All right. So what do I mean by stop and scan location? Do you guys follow me on that?
Yeah. So that the next
stop at the edge.
Go ahead, Cole.
Yeah, you're set up in front of something, some brush or tree or whatever it might be. So then the very next obstacle should be your shooting distance. Yeah. And that bull has to come through that obstacle. And so the first time you see him is whenever he's coming through that obstacle. Yep. That way he's right there with you, in your range.
He's already within your range. Yeah.
Exactly.
So think about this. You've come into your house and you're looking for your wife. How do you check each room to see if she's there? Right? No, Manano, you just don't get to go. You don't. Come on, go find your mother.
When I open the door, I just listen. and Nana everywhere. She yells.
He got nervous, man, when you said that. He's like, oh my God, is she here? What's going on?
If you came into the house and you think somebody might be asleep or napping or something, you go in, and do you go into each room and go around all the way into? No, you come to the doorway, you stop and you look in, right? Yeah. Okay? If you're trying to find out if somebody's inside the house from the outside, you go up to a window, you stop and you look in, and you're trying to get a visual. That's the same thing elk do. They want to get a visual. So you got to think about when I'm setting up. So I have an elk coming to me at a lower grade, and I'm up on an upper grade. So if I set up on the back side of that grade and that elk comes over, and that area where he comes over is 70 yards away with stuff in between, that bull's still going to come over the top there and stop and scan, because he's expecting to see something up there, depending on how open, especially if it's open, right? So what you always want to do is you want to be in the spot where if that bull's coming and I have a grade and he has to top out, I want to make sure I'm within my shooting range 30 yards of that stop and scan. Or if I have a tight setup, I want to make sure I have shooting lanes where that critter's going to have to come through to stop and scan, all right? And, there's people who say, well, a lot of times that animal will come in and he's straight on you. Well, okay.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. If they're straight up on you, there's one or two things that are going to happen, man. If he gets
draw.
in a stop and scan, he's going to turn to go out, or he's going to keep coming at you. If he keeps coming at you, draw and scream that bugle, man.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you're going to startle him. He's going to jump off. He's going to stop broadside, and he's going to look at you. Try it. Get in that situation. If it doesn't work for you, man, it's better than having no draw at all. Absolutely.
I'm
Similar to
telling
what
you,
happened to me last year.
Yeah. I guarantee you, there has not been a time that I've called a bull in for somebody and the bull boogered and I bugled and he did not stop and look. I'm telling you, every time. This year, when that bull boogered, when Brendan was trying to get his rangefinder pulled up and put up and draw, that bull boogered, I bugled, stopped him dead in his tracks at 35 yards.
Yeah.
That's a dead bull walking. I'm telling you right now. He got a gift from God that my peep sight turned on me because it was over. And I knew it was going to be over. But again, being able to call and make the sound for that to happen is huge. You know, you guys just got to believe that you can do that. Know that you can, if the bull's frontal, he's got to turn left or right. Joe knew when we called that bull uphill, Joe knew that was a dead bull. I did not want to take a 35-yard frontal shot. It was still a little bit of a quarter even. It was frontal. So I didn't want, we knew that bull's going to turn left or right. If he turns left, he's dead. If he turns right, I got to make a little bit of a movement and Joe's going to cover my draw.
And why do you know that? Because that bull stopped there and scanned for 5, 6, 7 minutes.
Yeah.
If that bull is stopping and is scanned over 3 minutes, he is not going to continue walking forward without some kind of visual confirmation. Yeah, he was going to turn, man. And him turning was going to be his fatal flaw.
Shot opportunity.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's it. Because as soon as he turns, scream a bugle, he stops, looks, arrows off, right? So
yeah, man, dude, it was like simultaneously. As soon as Joe bugled, bull stops, looks right at us. He looked right into the window of it. Over.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I want people to understand is that setups are so critical. Now, look, sometimes you don't get to pick your setup. Sometimes it's an oh crap and they're on you already. Yeah. I mean, if you're in the oh crap, all you're basically doing sometimes is dropping where you're at and you're getting yourself ready to shoot. But now it's all about using, because if it's an oh crap situation, they're probably already in an area that they're in your range. So now it's just focusing on the situation, preparing to see where that animal is, looking for the shooting lanes and getting ready to draw and scream and take that out. You guys, if you haven't practiced it, I want you to start at the range. I want you to start screaming a bugle as you draw, holding that as you shoot all the way through. Okay? Just practice that. Just with your mouth, no bugle tube. You don't need a bugle tube, man. They hear that high whistle at that close, and they're going to be getting after it, all right? They're going to stop and look at you, okay? So you try that. So I really think setups, choosing the wrong setup is one of the top failure points to get in an elk. Okay, in multiple ways, like what Chav talked about and like what I talked about, not planning on where that animal is going to show up and have to, stop and scan. Think about what is going to be their stop and scan location and make sure that it's in your shooting distance.
Yeah, man. If you're on one side of a park and you think you're going to call him across that park, ain't happening, son. As soon as he pops out to the edge of that park and he sees no elk, it's hung up time. You got to get across that park and into that thicker stuff so you can get him where you need him, so work yourself in.
If you're teamed up, you can have the caller way up on the ridge.
Leaving you. That's right.
Yeah.
And that'll pull him across that park.
Yep, pull him across like that.
And knowing when to set up, guys.
Yeah.
Whenever, when you do a locate bugle and you get a response,
absolutely,
that's not the time to set up.
Yeah.
Just because you heard a bull bugle is not the time to set up. You need to analyze what that bull said to you, and you need to cover ground.
I understand the distance.
Check the wind and cover ground.
Great point, Cole. Great point.
Don't think that they're just going to come marching over to you a half a mile, and you've been set up there for 45 minutes to an hour. He's probably you haven't said enough to him to get him to come over to you. So don't set up yet. You've got to, a lot of times, I don't know about you guys, but normally it's like 15 to 45 minutes even for me to get a bull convinced enough to come in. So a lot of times there's a lot of covering ground and getting everything situated before we actually set up. So I don't want anybody to get confused about that.
Yeah, and we hunt during
the first dog.
That depends, Cole.
We hunt during the first part of the archery season, so it's usually they're not as turned up like they are in October, right? I mean, I remember
or late September, right?
Yeah. And early October, I've turned the mule off and stepped out and went, yeah. And I mean, you better get your stuff ready, dude, because they were coming. It was crazy how that could happen. But you're right. The first time part of the year we hunt, Cole, especially early season, you're 100% right. You're gonna work.
Or what Cole's talking about too, man, that if you have a bull with cows in that late season, you got to look at your watch. Yeah. Okay, what time is it, man?
Yeah.
If it's 9 o'clock and that guy's bugling out there, there's a good chance he ain't going to come in you because them cows are going to bed.
Yeah.
So you had better really be able to not only close the distance, but if you figure he's with cows and they're moving away, you had better get up and parallel that animal to their level and start moving with them, not chasing behind them. So, Cole, that's a great point. And I don't know what y'all's distance is, but I like to be in that if it's tight, thick, as close as possible. But that 150, 200 range right in there, if I have bulls that are committing, then I can bring them in there. If I feel like they're starting to move away, then I got to get more in that bull's bubble and talk to his cows. So as tight as I can get so that I'm in that bubble. And what I mean by bubble is once I get into 100 yards of his cows and I'm talking to his cows, he's going to have to either going to have to deal with me, right? Or his cows are going to come to me. So he'd better choose to do one or the other. He'd better either run away because this bull's coming, or he better come get after me, right? So that's what I mean by that bubble.
Manano, you had something to add there?
Yeah, I don't fully agree with Cole because it all depends. I mean, if you have Luis calling in bull for you,
I knew it.
Well, you gotta get close, son.
You gotta get close, son.
Instead, you have Beto or Joe or Ninja. Okay, you can.
It's funny that comes from a guy that I call a bull in and then missed it twice.
Yeah.
You have to, if you hunt long enough,
he's going to look at the scoreboard. He's going to look at the scoreboard, right? So.
He's going to talk about the misses. Then, let's look at the miss scoreboard.
No, let's not
Joe,
even go there.
So, Joe, how about the lack of physical conditioning?
Oh, wow.
The lack of physical conditioning can be a huge failure point, man. Because
mine for years.
I don't think we've touched on that too much.
Look. You and I chased a herd of elk. I mean, we went as old school as you could get, man, because the only reason I was calling was not to try to bring the bull into me. I was just trying to slow the herd down. So I'm talking to the cows like a bull that's interested, just trying to slow them down a little bit, maybe slow that bull down a little bit just so that we could parallel. Sometimes your calling is not about bringing them to you. It's about just getting them to stop and listen.
Slow down.
Definitely on a destination.
Yes.
Asking them to slow down.
And I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about that. Thinking about it, I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about using.
No, because elk are where they are. They're going to where they're going to go.
Yeah. But so if you can just slow them down a little bit so that you can stay with them, because, those critters can go up stuff and they can go up fast, what it would take a long time to get up. So
way faster than I can go. I can tell you that straight up.
Well,
but if they dawdle, and if they just dawdle just a little bit, we're going to take advantage of the ones that don't hustle up, Joe.
Dude, we were trying to get up to those, man, and Gilbert said, Joe, stop.
I'm gonna die.
I said, I'm gonna die right here. And it wasn't so much of my lungs, it was my foot. My foot was killing me, man. I didn't know if I could go another minute, dude. Because if I can talk, I'm in pretty good shape.
So what was the diagnosis? Because Beto would always have a medical word that would explain everything that nobody would understand. So the foot had a special diagnosis that I cannot repeat. What is it? What's the foot condition, Beto?
Boy, man, Joe's had it, so he knows exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, I'm telling you right now, it's healed up though.
What is it? Come on, man. Just
torn ligaments in my feet.
Look, it's healed. We're just going to go rock it, man. Here,
straight up.
Hey, Cole.
Oh, you want the medical term?
Yeah.
So it's plantar fasciitis.
Oh my God, I can never repeat that in my life.
That's what it's called.
I thought you were talking about the lack of soulitis.
The lack of what, Chav?
Like a soulitis.
Yeah.
Or the soul of shoe fell off.
Yeah. I guarantee you, buddy, I was about to die. My foot was killing me. The little pins were starting to come out in my eyes and everything. I was like, Joe. I mean, first of all, we had elk right in front of us, and Joe will run through a herd of elk to get to another one. So I'm like, oh my God, please stop. I'm going to freaking die right here on this mountain.
He's like,
y'all just gut my ass right here.
What's the point of us getting to the elk if I can't shoot?
That's what I told you. I guarantee you, if I can't get there, it ain't gonna be no point. I said, y'all go ahead. Y'all just go ahead. Y'all go. And once we popped out into those elk, they were right there on us. Once we popped out on them, Joe's like, look, man, I'm going to go left and you take Manano and Chav and go right. And that's how we're going to split this deal down the middle. I was, thank God. Please go with them.
Hey, Cole, so failure point, bro.
So I think a big failure point for a lot of people is their self. They talk their self out of, situations, or they talk their self out of staying the whole hunt. They talk their self out of whatever it is. There's so many excuses out there when really you sometimes you have to buckle down and don't listen to the BS that you're telling yourself.
State of mind.
Forward a little bit. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Awesome.
There's a lot of people I think that miss opportunities because they instead of just reacting to a situation or whatever, they talk themselves out of it more times than none.
I totally agree, man.
I was watching a movie with my daughters the other day. It's a Disney movie, a new one that came out. And these two kids, this one kid that is kind of fearful, and the other kid is like, man, just say, shut up, Bruno. And what does that mean? Well, Bruno is that voice in your head that is, making you afraid, that telling you can't do it. Yeah. So whenever you just want to, man up and get it done, you just say, shut up, Bruno. And then you just go ahead and do it. And so it's kind of like what you're talking about. It's just quieting that negative thought and that positive state of mind makes a huge difference. I really like that.
My grandpa said to me when I was growing up, I grew up in a real rural part of Texas, and we all went to one high school, K through 12. So you're growing up with a lot of older kids, and they'd like to pick on people and stuff like that. And he'd tell you, he said, listen, son, they can kill you, but they can't eat you. He said, and I'm going to tell you right now, he said, you cannot be afraid of somebody like that. He said, you cannot fear anyone. And he just instilled that to me from a real early age, that fear was something to be dealt with and almost laughable, right? That we control that. And then, of course, you're training, through the military or through what we did in police academy and stuff like that. It just taught you how to channel those types of emotions and stuff, how you handle stressful situations and this, that, and the other. So fear is something that 100% grips all of us when we're in the woods. I mean, bears out there. There's all kinds of
Beto, how did you manage your fear when the bear goes like that and then go? You ran.
Yeah. Well, look, man, there's a time to cut and run. There's a time to stand and fight. And I can tell you this, you ain't winning standing fighting a bear. So I knew when it was time to cut and run,
That's fair.
It's the
right
same
there.
thing. It's the same thing. Cole makes a great point, though. You can't talk
I
yourself
like that
out
one.
of something. You got to believe in yourself and believe in your training. You spent 365 days getting prepared to come up here and test yourself against the elements and test yourself against the critters that live there. And, that's why we do it. I mean, look, I'm telling you, it is the number one most painful thing I do every year, because I know I'm going to push my body to its absolute brink. And the satisfaction of getting it done is all the more sweeter, So your preparation mentally is a key, no doubt, Cole. I think it's even more important than physical, because if
Yeah,
you're
I do
not
too.
equipped mentally to be up there and be in their element,
And
you're in a lot of trouble.
I'll take it one more step. I'll add something to Cole's, is that a lot of people accept mediocrity before they ever begin. And, they basically, have this self-fulfilling prophecy that, well, I might not get an elk, but I'm going to have fun. And look, we're always going to have fun when we do it. But
Yeah.
I just, that part of it of giving yourself the out,
It's already putting a negative
yeah,
in your thought process.
yeah. Don't accept that. Don't accept that whatever the people buy, that people sell, that, here's the stats. This is how many people kill every year. Well, you know what? If they say only 10% of the people out of everybody are going to kill an elk, then be one of that 10%.
Hell yeah.
Don't plan on being part of the 90,
I like eating elk meat. Like I said, I'm an equal opportunity elk hunter, so it don't matter to me. Now, look, if I get an opportunity to kill a bull, I'm going to do that.
But it's really important while you are doing the hunt and follow your procedures and hoping to get a bull, enjoy the hunt also. There's a really there's a yellow line between being a mediocre and being people. I mean, I enjoy all the time what I'm hunting. If I get a bull, great, amazing, awesome. But if I don't get a bull, I wouldn't get upset.
Yeah, but you don't go out there. You don't go out
yourself
there
that you may not.
without believing.
No, I don't even think about it.
No, listen to me. Look, Manano, if he's in the elk woods and there's elk moving about, that guy's.
No, man, I don't.
Get
I don't
one
think,
talking to you and get one in front of Manano, it's a done deal.
I
man.
have no negativity in my mind when I go out. None.
And yes,
None. What I try to do all the time is enjoy the hunt, enjoy the whole process.
Yeah.
In
Hell yeah. Call your wife
if
on
you
the
don't
phone.
get a
How's it going, baby? It's all
if you don't
good.
get a bull, that's okay. I mean, you have to go back and rethink what you did and try to get better the next time.
yeah.
Of course, but
And see, that's where
enjoy
you
the
and I are
hunt.
different. If I don't get an elk, it's not okay.
Yeah, it's not okay. For me either.
I tell you what, I'm getting more and
I'm
more
gonna
like that
have a
every year,
blast.
Joe.
I'm gonna have a blast. I'm gonna have fun.
Yeah.
We're gonna have fun.
have a great time, but it
That's a
ain't
given.
okay. It just it just does not work for me.
Well,
man.
for me, okay, it's okay. Amazing is different word. I mean, okay, it's okay.
Amazing.
Joe, I mean, let's, kind of in my mind here recapping, man, we've touched base at the psychological, mental level.
Yeah.
We've touched
The physical.
We touched on the physical level. We touched on the technical knowledge.
Yes.
We touched on equipment. I think really the spectrum of potential failures is so broad that I think looking back at these last podcasts is so important to at least identify which ones you need to work on, which ones are your biggest failures until, this upcoming season. And if you haven't been working on those, well, newsflash, you may be a little late. So you better get on it.
Well, and like we said, there's things that in the heat of the moment, having not checked your equipment or having a shot routine so that you're going to be the same every time, or having checked it so that that everything's pulling right, or your peep gets turned, or you don't recognize your shot placement, those types of things right there are things that you can definitely have down so that those are not going to be the issue there. And you're always going to fight your physical, you're always going to fight your mental, you're always going to fight your comfort. All of us are going to that's going to be a new challenge every year. Every year. But you can get some of these things that
minimize
about, like bending at the waist down an extreme shot, that just calling and believing in your call set, or leaving too early, or not being a believer in that. So those things can end up, if somebody out there was getting ready to sit up and go, I listened to their show, they said give it a half hour, and all of a sudden the bull showed himself and they killed it, done deal, we've done our job. Man, it's just like, because they heard that and they fed into it, they just stopped a failure point right there. So, if all of our listeners out there, if one thing happens that they remember from what we talked about and changed that in that moment so that they had success, boom, then
we've done our job.
Then all of this is not wasted breath. We're worth the salt, man. So that's what this is all about. And I'll tell you, I'm just going to finish with one last thing that I would tell people is look, do not have a limited strategy set. Don't be that same old rodeo. Don't go, I've heard people say, I just need a call, hike, call, challenge bugle, and find that one that wants to play. Because again, listen to what's going on out there, man. 10% are killing, 90% aren't. How many people are just challenging? They're just hiking, calling. Sometimes that works, but you got to be prepared with other strategies when it doesn't, okay?
That 10% of people, it's usually repeating.
That's
it's the same people doing it.
It's the same 10%.
We are killing 90% of the animals.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the same 10%.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and then there's a reason for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you this.
When we hunt with you, Joe, we know we're hunting with a coach, and you're calling and we're working together and the whole 9 yards. Ain't none of us want to let Joe down. That drives us every time we're in the woods. Right? Whether it's me and Brendan, how bad I wanted Brendan to kill a bull with me? I mean, dude, we worked tremendously hard and got really close several times, I wanted to make that happen for that guy so bad I could taste it, So, and that's part of this, I was willing to never get in a set and worry about me killing a bull for 3 or 4 days, because I wanted that to happen for that guy, you know? And I mean, Joe and I showed up early and had opportunities, but we had so much fun with the camera and all kinds of other stuff. I mean, if we're really downright going to get it done, we're done the first day we're there, but we were playing with cameras and decoys and just really checking out where the elk are. I mean, and before you know it, we're in the middle of them. So it's all about, you guys getting up there and believing in what you got going on. And if you're working with a team like we do, challenge each other, man, challenge each other.
I always challenge Luis.
Is that a challenge?
Even if I don't say it,
y'all challenge me.
Himself.
Y'all challenge
all the
me.
time.
Is that a challenge?
So
they challenge me for sure, because these guys can get up early.
I challenge you when I make paella or picanha.
Yeah,
dude.
And no means no.
Man, I tell you,
more means no more.
My system, my system is like, stop, man.
I tell you what, I can make a bear blush out.
Woods already, man.
I can make a bear blush out in them woods. I'm gonna tell you right now.
All right, so guys, we hope that this series is something that helps you. We'd love to hear from you if any of this is something that rang true in your head this coming season and helped you accomplish and punch that tag. We'd love to hear from you about that. So that's that. Now for our ElkBros mailbox, I've made an executive decision here. We have two questions here, and one of them is about cows out of Arizona, and we're going to do that one. But one of these questions, and I love this name, man. It is from Brady Bull out of Corpus Christi, Texas. Shout out to you, Brady, man. And in fact, somebody texted me wanting a shout out. Wanted Gilbert to give him a shout out. Dadgummit. I'm going to have to go back and look for that, and we'll do it on the next show. Don't let me forget, Gilbert, there's somebody that sent me a direct message on Instagram, wants you to give him a shout out. So we got to find that. So don't let me forget that. But Brady Bull out of Corpus Christi, Texas, is giving us scenarios with a herd bull. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over herd bull scenarios on our next show. And it's not going to be exactly, I mean, all I'm going to do is let you know that herd bull scenarios do not always mean killing the herd bull. Okay, so, and it doesn't always mean killing the biggest bull, and sometimes you can have herd bull scenarios that's going to kill another bull that's going to be bigger than the herd bull. So I'm going to tease you with all of that, but that's what we're going to do next time, is we're going to talk about herd bull scenarios, and we'll I'm not sure what time of year, if we're going to do it to 2 different times, but we'll talk about those strategies, man, on the next time. And Brady Bull, man, we're going to lead it out with you next time, all right? So we'll take care of some of that. So in our ElkBros mailbox, Chav, you wanna take us out on that one?
Okay. Well, first of all, it's an interesting name out of Arizona, so I'm going to pronounce it 2 different ways. It's Poria Otag or Poria Autag. Tad.
And buddy, we excuse us, but we're not that intelligent. We hunt elk and we do it with a sharp stick. So we're not saying we're bright, man. So Chav's giving it his best there.
Okay. This person asks, I and my hunting partners are archery cow elk hunters and have a hard time finding much info regarding strategies to bring in cow elk. We have a hunt coming up for 3 cow elk here in Arizona. Is there a specific calling sequence or a specific strategy to bring in cow elk that you guys use or recommend? I know this is a broad question. Any tidbit would be greatly appreciated.
And I want y'all to know, if I remember right, from Podia, this was actually in September. So this is still a September hunt for cows in Arizona. Okay.
Ooh.
Cole, we're gonna let the Flatlander take us out on this one, man. You got any ideas?
Yeah, man. If I was going to be killing a cow, I think I would go straight to lost cow or calf calls, or long drawn out cow mews in search of other cows, and hoping that I get a response from a cow. And once I do, then I'm just going to keep repeating those noises and try to draw that cow or group of cows over to me, basically piquing their interest, want to come see what's going on with this calf.
Frustrated.
I think the scenario that I would use.
Absolutely. Man, I watched Joe do it. He pulled it off this year. There was a couple of cows that were loose out that big herd past us. And he thought maybe Brendan was going to shoot one of them. So he said, y'all wait right here. I'm going to call that cow right back to you. And that's exactly what he did, man. He went into that lost calf and lost cow call. And that cow come running with her head up like to ran Brendan over. And we're both looking at each other like, well, man, is he going to kill this cow or what? We're like, man, he's right there. And Brandon, hard pass. So it was really cool, though. I mean, just to be able to call cows to you like that. I mean, I learned a lot just in that little setup. But that's
frustrated, intense mew.
Yeah.
And lost mew, frustrated, like, it's powerful too.
Those calf cows, those calf calls are great for bulls too, man. I mean,
yeah, they are.
It's a great call for bulls. It's something that is kind of neutral. It means that there's cows around. There could be a reason that cow has pushed that calf off as she's getting ready to come into estrus. I mean, so there's lots of reason that calf call works like that. And the only thing I was going to add to Cole is that, what he's talking about is there's going to be three ways or three things that you can go towards when you're talking to cows. It's going to be their herd instinct, it's going to be their maternal or protective instinct, and it's going to be their breeding instinct. And you can bring cows to you sounding like the biggest, baddest bull in the woods, man. And you can have cows come right to you because they're going to look for that bull and you can actually bring those cows off of a bull to you. And there's something that we talk about that we have called before, and we call it a convergence. And I don't know if people really have that pictured in their mind, but just understand, let's say that you have three different herd bulls with cows that maybe even have satellites, and they're in three locations at the bottom of a mountain moving up. And for some reason, it seems like they always end up coming together at some location there, what we call a convergence. And those bulls are screaming the whole time. Well, remember, the cows lead the bulls. And if they hear other bulls that they think are bigger or possibly better suitors and stronger than the bull they have with them, they're going to go to that bull. So you can call cows off of it. We've done that, guys. Remember, we did that with coming up. We brought the cows right to us, man. So
how about, but Joe, there's also a potential issue out of that, right? If you're not careful enough, what you may end up doing too is that big bull will try to push the cows away to try to come and then confront that bull, right?
Yeah, he can try, but it depends on a couple of things. It depends on how many cows he has with him, number one.
Time of day, too.
Yeah, if it's just a small bull with a couple of cows, he's going to try to run her off like that. But I'm talking about a herd bull with a number of cows, man. And I've seen it where they've come into water, where they're coming to feed. They're all converging in that area. Yeah. And one bull one bull will go up and kick that other bull's butt and then steal his cows and bring them down. It's a neat phenomenon, man, because I can pull just by sounding big and raspy, and like I have cows, I can pull cows that are like, hey, let's go that way. Now the problem with that though is, if I'm not hunting cows and I'm hunting the bull, it's a little bit tougher to get to them because now you got a bunch of eyes in the area. It makes it kind of
and
difficult.
They know you're there.
Yeah. And here's the other thing about cows. Cows are a lot smarter than bulls. So they're a lot harder. Sometimes you got to get the group heading your way and then just shut up and wait for the shot. Once you get the group heading your way, you just shut up, man, and let them come in. Because if you already have eyes on cows, and let's say they're inside a park and you come to that edge and you throw a cow call, you're screwed, because they're like, same thing, show yourself, and they know all the other cows in the area right now, and so they're going to get spooked and they're going to head out of there. Now, if you're in thick stuff as they're heading up trees and cows are all spread out, that's the best time to use that lost calf call or lost cow call to pull them over to you. And you guys saw how that works because we've done that as well. Yeah, so they come there. So you're either going to use the herd instinct where you're just walking sounding like a herd and maybe a cow and a calf is going to come to join that, or you're going to use that maternal where, like Cole says, you're using those cow and calf calls, or you're going to use that breeding type sounds to try to bring them. Look, man, try to bring in that doggone herd bull by calling to his cows and pull them off, or get in there, follow those, those bull bugles, you're going to find cows. And I mean, if you want to find the cows, hunt the bulls. You want to find the bulls, hunt the cows. I mean, it's real easy.
Yeah, that's fantastic content, Joe. I mean, you know, when we're out there, you got to make these game time decisions, you know. So it's always good to, you know, when you're hunting by yourself, it can get kind of dicey, but you know, we hunt in teams, and it's actually enhanced our ability to be able to close the deal on a lot of scenarios, or understand the scenario after it happened, how we either messed it up or, you know, we can do better next time, you know. So I think if you guys are out there doing it yourself and y'all are first time elk hunters, man, don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to learn. Get out there and get in the middle of it and blow some stuff up. And, you know, like Joe said, I mean, to call a cow in to you, it just got to sound like a lost calf, and a lost cow, they're going to come. I promise you, they're herd type animals, and they definitely want to take care of one another. So that's a really good question.
If you want to get wet, you got to jump in the puddle.
Exactly, got to jump in the pond if y'all want to get wet. Joe's fantastic stuff, man. It's always awesome to have the Mafia in the house and the Flatlander himself here offering up great content. Guys, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate, and review us. You got to go to Apple Podcast or iTunes to review us, and you can check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. And just a reminder, if any of our listeners would like their questions answered on our show, just send your question to info@elkbros.com. That's info at elkbros.com. And like we say down here in Texas, husbands, kiss your wives. Wives, kiss your husbands. Hug your babies. Keep your broadhead sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
And for all our grinders out there, some more music from our brother Tony Wintrip to close out the show. Laters, everybody.
Peace out.
I'm out on this lonesome highway. I'm headed towards the sea. There's no one in this pickup truck but me. All of my cash in my pocket, I'm about to bet it all on myself. This could be faith, this could be heaven, or this could be hell. While the wheels in my mind are turning, like the tires that ride on the road, I'm looking for someone to share with me this heavy load. Almighty One, can you shine your light on me? But don't take your time, 'cause mine's running out, I'm in a hurry, oh yeah. And if you've got some wishes left, can you save one for me? I'm all by myself on Highway 12. Highway 12. Roll on, Highway 12. Now if you've got strength, can you grant me some? 'Cause I'm getting weak in the knees. I lost everything that I earned for years, bankruptcy. Starting over is the hardest, 'cause things have changed so much. From good friends to now old faces, and no such thing as good luck. Almighty One, can you shine your light on me? But don't take your time, 'cause mine's running out, I'm in a hurry, oh yeah. And if you've got some wishes left, can you save one for me? I'm all by myself on Highway 12. Highway 12. Roll on, Northwest.